Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining me today. I want you to think about your vegetable garden not just as a patch of dirt in your backyard, but as a bustling, meticulously planned city. To build a thriving metropolis, you need solid infrastructure, a strong foundation, the right residents, strategic zoning laws, a good defense system, and finally, a bustling economy that gives back to the community. Today, we're going to build that city together. So, why do some gardens just absolutely explode with fresh produce, while others, well, kind of flatline? The research shows it really comes down to sequence and science. In this explainer, we're taking all that overwhelming agricultural data and distilling it into a precise chronological roadmap. We're going seed to harvest to engineer a truly high-yield garden. Okay, let's dive into this roadmap. We'll start with planning your garden space, move into building healthy soil, then choosing the right plants, the magic of companion planting, managing pests and diseases, and finally, harvesting and giving back. Step 1, planning your garden space. This is our city's infrastructure. The key to our layout here is maximizing full sun, staying away from large tree roots, and ensuring all your raised beds remain easily accessible so you never have to step on the soil. Now, timing dictates your entire agricultural schedule. Checking your local frost date, like mid-May for Zone 5 in Iowa, for example, is your baseline. Research shows that jumping the gun on those early, warm spring days is actually the leading cause of seedling loss. The data tells us, just wait. Moving to step 2, building healthy soil, the foundation of our city. And the absolute golden rule for this infrastructure: never work, till, or walk on wet soil. Doing that guarantees catastrophic root compaction, and we definitely don't want that. So how do we build this foundation the right way? First, just wait for the soil to dry out enough so it crumbles easily in your hand. Second, take a soil test. A basic soil test completely takes the guesswork out of building basic fertility. It tells you your exact pH and organic matter levels. Third, add organic matter like a good compost. And fourth, lightly till the soil just to work that compost in, or use a no-till method by simply layering mulch like straw right on top to suppress weeds and lock in moisture. Now, what's really interesting to consider is the NPK ratio. The data reveals a super common trap, growing a massive, lush tomato plant that produces literally zero actual tomatoes. This happens when there's an over-index on nitrogen. The science shows we've got to switch to low-nitrogen fertilizers the exact moment those blossoms appear to push fruit production instead of just growing more leaves. Step 3, choosing the right plants. This is where we select the cast for our garden, and choosing specific cultivars really sets our whole ecosystem up for success. Rather than planting your cool season and warm season crops sequentially, agricultural studies highlight the incredible efficiency of intercropping. You can plant frost-sensitive tomatoes right smack in the middle of your cool season lettuce. By the time the tomatoes grow large enough to cast a shadow, well, the lettuce is already ready to harvest. It is such a brilliant use of space. And choosing naturally disease-resistant, open-pollinated varieties is your absolute best first line of defense against crop failure. Instead of fighting a losing chemical battle against something like powdery mildew, planting the homemade pickles cucumber uses the plant's natural genetics to resist it. It's really about letting the DNA do all the heavy lifting for you. Step 4, the magic of companion planting. And this brilliantly illustrates the strategic zoning laws of our garden city. The research-backed benefits here are just phenomenal. Planting certain crops side by side conserves your limited space. It improves soil health. Legumes actually pull nitrogen from the atmosphere and fix it into the soil for other plants to use. Companion planting also provides mutual physical support. It attracts helpful predatory insects, and it even uses strong odors to mask the scent of your prized vegetables from hungry pests. The absolute gold standard of this is the Three Sisters model. It's a historic method perfectly demonstrating mutual support, developed in Mesoamerica and used by indigenous communities for hundreds of years. You plant corn, which grows tall and acts as a natural climbing stalk. You plant beans at the base to climb the corn and fix nitrogen to feed that heavy-feeding corn. And finally, you plant squash around the perimeter. Its massive, prickly leaves act as a living mulch to retain water and as a physical deterrent to keep raccoons away. It's a perfectly balanced, self-sustaining ecosystem. Step 5, managing pests and diseases. Let's look at our city's defense mechanisms, introducing the pest villains and the natural heroes we use to stop them. Take these massive defoliators as an example. You have the tomato hornworm with its dark blue horn and the tobacco hornworm with its red horn. The immediate reaction is usually to just hand pick them and remove them, right? But the research says, hold on. So the crucial point is we need to check their backs first. If you see a hornworm covered in what looks like tiny grains of white rice, leave it exactly where it is. Those are the cocoons of the braconid wasp, one of our ultimate garden heroes. That wasp is naturally taking care of the caterpillar, and by leaving it, you're hatching a whole new generation of helpful predators. We can also deploy things called trap crops. For example, blue Hubbard squash acts like a magnet for devastating pests like the squash vine borer. By planting it on the edge of your garden, it pulls the villains entirely away from your main harvest. It is a brilliant decoy strategy. Step 6. Harvesting and giving back. The pantry. Let's move to the final, incredibly rewarding stage of our timeline, handling our surplus yield and giving back to the community. Local food pantries highly prefer recognizable, easy-to-prepare crops like tomatoes, zucchini, and winter squash. The logistical key here is all about timing. Harvest and deliver these right before the pantry patrons arrive to ensure they're in absolute peak condition. Pantries also desperately need long-lasting staples. Potatoes, onions, peppers, cucumbers, and melons make fantastic donations. What makes potatoes and onions so incredibly valuable is that if you harvest them and let them cure properly, just allowing the skins to dry and thicken for a few days, they can be stored at the pantry for long periods without taking up precious refrigerator space. Let's move to and see how this builds into an even bigger impact. We can elevate our strategy by focusing on nutrient density. Options like broccoli, cabbage, and sweet potatoes offer incredibly valuable, fresh nutrition that is notoriously difficult for food-insecure families to source. When you donate these, simply brush off the excess dirt or give them a very gentle wash. Above all, we really want to create lasting, positive impressions. Please remember, food safety is absolutely paramount. We only want to donate unblemished, top-tier food. Don't donate produce with deep cracks, severe insect damage, or rot. While a slightly ugly, bruised tomato is totally fine for your own kitchen counter, providing high-quality, beautiful produce ensures the safest, most respectful, and uplifting experience for the clients receiving it. Which brings us to our final question for you: what will you grow and donate this season? We've covered the complete roadmap today, from carefully timing your first seeds based on the frost date, to managing the soil infrastructure, casting the perfect disease-resistant varieties, utilizing the magic of companion planting, and defending your crops naturally. You now have the full blueprint to build an incredible, high-yielding garden city. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really can't wait to see what you grow.